With a minor class, it is different from an adult class. Welcome back to another video. I have my amazing guide dog, Izzy, next to me. Izzy is a black lab. Okay, and I just want to preface this video by saying that what I'm going to discuss is all from my experiences. So you likely won't experience the same things I will exactly. And also, I do have my laptop with me, so I make sure to cover all of the things I want to discuss. And yes, I'm using accessibility settings. After the home interview ended, I waited, I believe, 3 weeks to get a response whether I was approved or denied for a guide dog. And so I was approved. Then I got my class date. I believe it was 3 months before I went to their campus for class. So I got it in April, and then I went to class on July 21st. And so I got accepted actually on July 21st of 2023, and I went to training on July 21st, 2024. The next steps were to do some pre-training preparations, and so that was both mentally and physically, because training can be very exhausting. You are going to be working very long days, and it can be very emotional time, and you need enough mental stamina to be able to be successful in training with your guide dog. So Guide Dogs for Blind sent me a bunch of resources for this. I got sent some YouTube videos on how to train physically to prepare, and then also I believe it was some sort of other resource for your mental health or emotional, but it was very helpful. And so with those, I would just use those a lot, rewatch it, or read before training happened. What they also sent over and encouraged was reading through their class lecture materials. I really recommend this to anyone who is getting a guide dog, because it really gives you a good look into what you're going to work on, which is so important, because you're going to be able to be like, okay, I have good knowledge about this. Oh, I might struggle with this a little bit, so how can we work with this, or can we work more on this, because I feel that I'm going to have the most trouble with, or it happens a lot in my home area. Then a little bit about class was that you stay in your own dorm with your guide dog the entire time, and I had 5 other minors in my class. I was the youngest in my class, and typically the others were around 17, and they are so wonderful. We still keep in contact to this day. And then you have chefs who make your food every single day, and you have the option to choose what you want to eat off of a list of options for you. You were responsible to do your own laundry and kind of also upkeep your room, of course, as well. And another important thing is that you had to make sure that if you take any medicine like I do, that you take it over the sink. And this isn't something that should be guide dog exclusive. It is something that should be done with any animal for that case, because if a medicine drops on the ground, you don't want your animal to eat it, because that's going to be very bad and it could harm them. We did have some restrictions on what we could and couldn't do with our guide dogs during training. And so one of those was we couldn't post about our guide dogs on social media until we were told that we could. This is because we don't want to let the puppy raisers know right away. Guide Dogs for the Blind will tell the puppy raisers on their own that the guide dog is in class. The next thing that we couldn't do was go off campus with our guide dogs when there weren't any instructors with us. So me and my classmates wanted to go to Safeway, but our dogs had to stay back in our dorms to do so, and so we just used our cane. What we were able to do though was we could, with approval when we were ready, was we could have our guide dogs guide us when we're in the residence, going to different rooms, the gym, and also the dining hall. And we were able to do with approval, I believe it was maybe the second week that we were able to do this, but we were able to take our guide dogs on a walk around campus and just kind of explore there while the instructors weren't with us, and it was at night once we were ready to do so. So we were all walking around campus with our dogs guiding us. And that was one of my favorite experiences with my class, honestly. And for a little more information about training is that you have an option of 2 routes typically that you can choose from to work with your instructor on. So I ended up choosing to go to a coffee shop called Pink Owl in downtown San Rafael. Love that place. And so you work on this route repeatedly until you are able to memorize it, I believe during the second week, and you're able to get there by yourself without any need for being reminded. Of course, you can ask questions if you're lost, but the main focus is for you to be able to navigate to your route by yourself. We learned how to handle and manage our guide dog. So that included grooming our guide dog and communicating with our guide dog and learning how to do positive reinforcement. So you will have to reinforce your guide dogs at times when they do make mistakes. And Guide Dogs for the Blind teaches you how to use it via positive reinforcement. So that included timeouts, leash gestures, cues, corrections, collar corrections, and I think there's a couple other things I believe as well, but those were the main things. And then we also did distraction practice because it is probably going to be very common that your dog will get distracted. Despite them being so well trained, they're still a dog. They will get distracted. And so we were able to set up instances where our dogs would get distractions. So it was dog distractions, it was a bird distraction, there was food distraction. And so we were able to work through that with our guide dogs and see how they react with it. We set up scenarios during training also on working with overhead obstacles and different types of clearances. So where you had a total barricade where you could not make it through, and where your guide dog would stop, show you the obstacle, and you would work through it together, or if you had to go through it first and your guide dog follow, or vice versa. For training in San Rafael, we had morning and afternoon lessons, and we would go to a place that Guide Dogs for the Blind owns, and so we just hang out there as we waited for the other person to come back. Because we were a minor class, it was 2 students with 1 guide dog instructor. And so one of us would wait back at the place while the other did the route and switch off. With a minor class, it is different from an adult class. The adult class, from what I've heard, is much more rigorous, whilst ours was still pretty rigorous, but not as much as the adult class is. And then also having 2 people with 1 instructor, and always making sure that there's someone else in the room and you are not alone with an instructor if you're a minor. And this is just all for safety. Then at the end of the day, around 5, the instructors would go home unless they were the resident advisor for that day. And from there, you would just get free time. Me and my classmates typically would hang out with each other in the gym. I know it's an odd place, but we really liked going to the gym. We also met with a couple of people also with Guide Dogs for the Blind. So we met with people in charge of their veterinary financial assistance program. So Guide Dogs for the Blind does cover the dogs in all of their vet bills their entire life. And it is honestly so amazing. And so we got to learn about that. We also got to meet with vets also who gave our dogs their physical exams and just kind of like told us all the things that we need to know about our dogs and if there was any concerns and how to transition from going to like finding a vet when you get home. Then we met with a couple of other people as well who we were able to gain a lot of knowledge about what it'd be like going home with our guide dogs also, and learning more about guide dogs for the blind support.